Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Terran versus Terran where we find ourselves on the map Eternal Empire. Spawning here in the left bottom side, playing with the red Terran SCVs, we have the highest ranked player from Germany and his nickname, of course, is HeroMarine. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the blue Terran pieces from Poland, we're looking inside of the main base of souL. Alrighty, now I've casted my fair share of HeroMarine games over the years. He's actually sending out an SCV at a bit of an awkward timing there. I guess he's still going to be starting up a barracks over here. Maybe he's going to scout really early, or maybe he plans on planting down a second barracks on the side right here of souL. We'll see in just a little bit. Regardless, I've casted my fair share of HeroMarine games over the years. The guy is obviously very, very good. He's been participating this year so far in a ton of the smaller online tournaments. He's won like 2 dozen of them at this point, or like 2 dozen of them. Actually, it's going to be a second barracks right over here. A bit of an awkward position, so this is certainly going to pile on a little bit of pressure, and sometimes it can accidentally obtain you the victory, but I don't really see souL rolling over against something like this. Regardless, HeroMarine, like I said, he's playing in a lot of the smaller online tournaments, and he's winning them left and right. He's really been playing a ton, and for some reason, I haven't really covered as many of his games. He's playing in the grand finals of those against players like, for example, Neep and Raynor and Showtime, and every once in a while, souL participates in one of them as well. So there's really competent players playing in those tournaments. But, hey, by the way, it's going to be a factory opener right here from souL. He should be more than okay. Not a super fast expansion here on the low ground. He also skipped the SCV scout here as well. And it looks like he's actually rallied that Reaper on top of the supply depot. So he shouldn't really take too much damage here, all things considered. Now, I've casted quite a few HeroMarine games over the years. I have not casted nearly as many of souL's games. souL is one of those players who's ridiculously good on the ladder. So as of me making this video, he's currently the number 2 on the European Grandmaster League ladder at 7,035 MMR. Now when it comes to reaching 7k MMR, there's only a handful of players that can actually reach it. I'm talking like maybe like 6, 7, 8 players in the world. You probably know their names. You definitely know their names if you watch any StarCraft. Now, this command center, I don't think that SCV is going to live for very long. It's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Reaper over here waiting as well. Hellion's going to finish up in just a little bit. This should be a pretty clean defense here for souL. And already, I mean, HeroMarine, he doesn't really know exactly what's going on, but judging there by the timing of that CC, he knows that he needs to get out of there. And he decides to now send those Reapers all the way back home, lifting up that second barracks on the other side of the map. Probably sending it straight back to the main base to start researching some of those upgrades. Anyways, so souL is one of those ladder players who's ridiculously highly ranked. Well, one of those. I think he's really like the only one who plays at like the tippity top of the skill level on the ladder. Because in order to reach 7k MMR, you're going to be facing off against the best of the best. And you have to have like 70+% win rate. It's pretty ridiculous. But he doesn't seem to have the strongest tournament results. That being said though, he's certainly a player you want to keep in mind. Because I wouldn't be surprised at all if at some point everything will click together and he's going to be able to have some ridiculous tournament results as well. He's not that old. I think he's like 21 years old, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines. So he's certainly, yeah, he's certainly a name you want to keep in mind as well. I mean, generally speaking, right, if he would have been 26, he would have been past his prime for sure. That's boomer age for StarCraft. No, not quite, but yeah, like he's certainly a name that you want to keep in mind. And obviously HeroMarine, I mean, he's not an old guy either. He's been around for a long time. He's been participating at a very high level for a long time as well, but he certainly does not show any signs of slowing down either. I remember like a year ago, it was always the question like, who's the best German player? Is it Lambo? Is it Showtime? Is it HeroMarine? Well, at least over like the last half year or so, HeroMarine certainly has taken the crown. And I know actually there's a lot of German viewers over here on the channel. Ganz viele Deutsche Leute. I had German in school at some point, okay? I suck at it though. I had German for like 4 years and I can still only really order a beer. It's kind of how it is. Anyhow, gonna be a bio follow-up right here for HeroMarine. He's getting himself that Stimpack upgrade, and he's gonna be able to transition quite easily. A very quick third command center. souL is looking to potentially get a little bit of damage done. Ooh. Trying to get those Hellions on the low ground to maybe get some big shots in on those Reapers, but nice defense right there by HeroMarine. Notice here how he's not putting like the Reapers on the very edge. That would have gotten a nice line of fire off right there on those Hellions. He's positioning them just right. Both players already going for the third command center though, but you can see obviously the one for HeroMarine quite a bit quicker. Should be okay though. Curious here to see what souL is going to follow up with, right? So this is definitely going to be a bio follow-up here for HeroMarine. I mean, when you make that second barracks, you kind of have to. You can transition into mech, but it gets a little bit awkward. A couple of kills right here, or just one kill for now, but at least a little bit of lost mining time here as well with that one auto turret. Always very annoying. Once again, players threatening here for a little bit, but there is a Cyclone out, and Cyclones are going to be able to... you know, get rid of this hit squad quite easily. Now, how many SCVs can he get in the meantime? That's 3 already. Not bad at all. Does that actually include the one that the Raven killed? I think so, yeah. So a little bit of damage here being done on both sides, but really nothing all too crazy. So it is going to be a double NG Bay here as well for souL. He's going to be following it up with barracks. So this is certainly going to be a bio approach from him as well. So good old Marine Siege Tank versus Marine Siege Tank. Now, Marine Siege Tank, for those of you unfamiliar, it's a bit of a strange composition. The thing is, Siege Tanks can shoot away further than they can see. And because of that, say like you have like a line of Siege Tanks for one player and then a line of Siege Tank for like the other player, right? You need to have something as well to give the Siege Tanks their maximum vision range. So usually that's done with scans or obviously with like Vikings as well. Now obviously if you're playing Marines, you ideally want to put in a bunch of Medivacs as well. Not only to go for some drops, but also to potentially put on a little bit of healing, right, on your actual Marines. So there's this delicate balance that you want to strike between like Siege Tanks, Marines, Medivacs, and then Vikings. And then units like Ravens can be added into the mix really wonderfully as well. Ravens are absolutely awesome because they have a spell called Interference Matrix that will allow you to disable your opponent's Siege Tanks as well, which is very, very critical. Now, generally speaking, this is just going to be a little bit of harassment, but in the later stages of Marine Tank versus Marine Tank, we see Liberators making an introduction into the game as well. Once you have that superior Viking count, you can start producing additional Medivacs, of course, but you can also make Liberators. And Liberators are awesome if you want to force your opponent to unsiege. So, in case you're unfamiliar with Terran versus Terran, that's just like a small introduction, I suppose. There's a lot of dynamics for all of the different units and a lot of interactions between all of the different units that make this matchup really, really cool, even when the opponents are, or the players rather, are playing literally the exact same unit compositions. Fourth command center already coming up. Neither player really committing to anything. Scan right there in the main base for HeroMarine also confirms the timing right there on the 4th and then also that 5th barracks. Both players should be able to start up their upgrades really nicely here. The 2-2 should be coming up here for HeroMarine in just a sec. He already finished 1-1. There we go. He's going to be able to start that up very, very quickly. Notice as well how a couple of units are set up everywhere on the map just to spot incoming aggression. A couple of supply depots actually also hanging out. We see the double Raven now in the top left-hand corner. But this is just little bits of harassment here and there where both players try to take small advantages. souL in a pretty good spot, killing a couple more SCVs, but I mean, nothing really to write home about. Another big thing, obviously, that also is worth keeping in mind here is the upgrades. Upgrades are super critical in these instances. Actually, would you look at that? 4 auto turrets, man. They kill stuff real fast. Yep, that supply depot is certainly going to be killed as well. Obviously, they only last a little while. Love the fact, actually, that he sent one in just a little bit later. That way, the SCVs had to stop mining for just a little while longer. But upgrades, absolutely massive. We can see right now souL is actually kind of slacking on those. He needs to really start... Okay, he finally does start them. There's about a good half minute or so of advantage right there for HeroMarine. Now, upgrades, they trigger, obviously, more often on units that attack very, very fast, that come out in big numbers, right? Because every single Marine is going to get 1 additional damage and 1 additional armor. When you compare that, for example, to, like, I don't know, like, say, Thors, right? You're not going to have that many Thors when compared to Marines. So usually fast-attacking units that come out in small, or in large numbers, rather, they benefit from those upgrades significantly more often. They're small units, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. But they benefit from upgrades a lot. So this is going to create a timing window here where HeroMarine is going to have a very nice advantage. Marines right here from the bottom right-hand corner do come in stimming. But, yeah. The planetary fortress is done. There's a bunch of siege tanks set up as well. I don't really anticipate this getting all too much done. Fourth command center is going to finish up here in just a little bit for souL. He's a little bit behind when it comes to all of those things, right? You can see the eco is just a little bit slower, and he's also just a little bit slower when it comes to the upgrades. That is something worth pointing out, but honestly, like, Terran versus Terran, I think I love this matchup as well, primarily because of the fact that, like, even when you're, like, quote-unquote behind, and obviously he's got a superior supply lead right now because he's got more unit production, but anyways, like, even when you're, like, quote-unquote behind and you have a smaller army, there's a lot of comeback potential because of siege tank and defensive positionings. If you compare it to, like, say, for example, Roach Wars in Zerg versus Zerg, I mean, the player with more roaches pretty much always wins, right? And if you have 10 more roaches than your opponent, yeah, you just go and kill him. In this instance, though, in Terran versus Terran, yeah, you might be ahead, but your best bet is loading up all your stuff in Medivacs and then sending them to your opponent's main base or something along those lines, because siege tanks can obviously deal a lot of damage. You have that defensive positioning really, really nicely. Pretty passive game, though, right? I mean, we've passed the first 11 minutes of the game. Both players have tried to do something, but neither of them really getting a whole lot done. There's the interference matrix that I pointed out earlier. Those Vikings are going to be disabled for just a little while, and it will at least allow these Ravens to fly all the way back home pretty safely. There we see the fusion core coming up from souL. Probably will be utilizing that in just a little bit. There's a ring of missile turrets already set up here around the natural expansion. The Medivacs apparently just YOLOing forward. Love that siege tank positioning right over there as well. It looks like it might end up dying, but I mean, that goes at the cost right here of pretty much all of those units. And I've got a feeling that these Medivacs are going to have a pretty hard time getting out of here. Although they look like they will be able to get out here eventually. This is when we get to play StarCraft trivia again. What is this upgrade called? Let me know down below in the comment section. It starts with a C. Just to prove that I do know what it's called, okay? I'm not just a total, you know. It's not that I personally don't know and that I'm asking you guys to know. There we go. Just let me know down below in case you are unfamiliar. Or you are familiar, rather, with the upgrade. It's a Raven improvement. Now, by the way, the reason why you want to get the fusion core these days is because of the Liberator ranged upgrade, the advanced ballistics. It's already coming up right there. Now, here's the first big battle being set up between these two players. Both of them obviously maxed out right now. There it is, by the way, the Corvid reactor. Hope you got it right. The thing is, right, souL is trying to find an entrance. He's trying to find a location where he can potentially push in. On Eternal Empire, this like horizontal setup, it's completely covered by high ground, right? So how are you gonna push in here? I don't think you really are. I don't think you really are going to be pushing in. Oh my god, is he actually going to try? There's a planetary fortress there, a bunch of siege tanks as well. He is going to go ahead and do so. Does manage to land the one interference matrix there. Massive anti-armor missile going down on a ton of those Marines as well. That means that they will take additional damage from everything while that little orange paint color is on their stuff. At the same time, though, there's a small drop right here on the other side of the map, hitting all of those SCVs from the high ground that are mining next to that planetary fortress. Good defense, though, so far here by HeroMarine. Very brave move there by all of those Marines to use their Stimpack drugs to try and get up to that high ground. Not quite a great suggestion. At the same time, though, while souL loses a bunch of his army, he did manage to now start up this command center in the top left-hand corner. So he's trying to secure as much here as he can. He also left a lot of those siege tanks behind. Looks like HeroMarine actually wants to come in from all sides right now. Okay, never mind. He only is coming in from... from the low ground. I thought he maybe wanted to unsiege over on that side. And nicely done. He jumps on top of all of those siege tanks, loaded up the Marines inside of those Medivacs as well, to then go ahead and drop them on top of the tanks, and that will allow him to clean that position up. What are you gonna do right now, though, right? This would be the moment in Zerg versus Zerg where you would go in for the counterattack. But you can't really do that because you know your opponent is gonna have a defensive position once again. Liberators are gonna be the name of the game right here as well for souL, and I love them. I think Liberators are absolutely awesome in this scenario. 3-3 already done here for HeroMarine, so I would have not minded to see him try and at the very least get a little bit of damage done. But right now, of course, even though those upgrades were a little bit later, they are gonna be finished up as well. And that means upgrades are going to be pretty much dead even, with the exception, of course, of like those air and then also those siege tank upgrades. A lot of respect, though, between these two players, right? You can see neither of them really committing to literally anything. Ravens once again coming up for the harassment. They've actually got now like 11 and 5 kills, respectively. That's very, very high. Now, with this low ground base being taken, though, you can see that this position is going to change quite a bit. Now, all of a sudden, we are engaging on flat ground. That's absolutely massive. Interference Matrix is being used right here. HeroMarine actually trying to get into a better position. Moves the siege tanks quite far forward. Anti-armor missiles going down on all of the units here of souL. Is he going to be able to break this position? I don't think so. HeroMarine will be forced to go back home with that unit composition of his. I would not want to be a Marine in Terran versus Terran, man. They seem to be used as like cannon fodder primarily. Here we go. Oof. Liberators pushed forward, and they're going to force those siege tanks to either unsiege or, well, in this case, to die. Ravens being added into the mix right now as well for HeroMarine. He knows that he doesn't have as big of an anti-air force. I mean, look at that. 13 Vikings here in total for souL, so he's got that air lead, which is the reason why those Liberators are so effective. But obviously, Ravens are still absolutely awesome. They can change the tide of battle really quickly, because obviously when all the siege tanks are disabled, you can just simply run in and kill everything with the Marines. Very cool dynamic between all of those units. It's a very complex matchup to play for sure. Super easy to accidentally mess things up. I personally also find it hard to gauge my positioning in this matchup. Liberators target firing down the siege tanks. And actually, most of them will also die to those siege tanks in the back. Regardless, this is, once again, a bit of an awkward position, though. Most of the tanks currently unsieged. They're rolling on back home. Medivacs are starting to fall, though, and this is very, very painful. There's really not that much air here anymore for HeroMarine, and that does make the game so much more difficult. When your opponent is playing a very high-tech unit composition, and you're still kind of stuck on just Marine tank, the game becomes very, very tricky. Look at that. It's literally just Marine tank and then 2 Vikings and 3 Medivacs and a couple of Raven. The Ravens are nice. Is he going to be able to get some interference matrices done? He will at the very least disable one of those tanks. The siege tank count, though, heavily in favor here of HeroMarine, so that at the very least makes this good. But now you can see where that, you know, that viewing distance, right, is super important. The Vikings now even land on top of all of those tanks, and souL takes a decisive victory right there in that engagement. Marines, though, coming up from the natural. They're stemming forward, and they pick up a couple of those Vikings on the retreat. HeroMarine trying to take control of the base over here on this high ground. Bottom right-hand corner being scanned here by souL. He just took control of his in the top left-hand corner. He knows now, at the very least, that he is gonna be able to take a nice advantage, assuming he also takes control of this space right over here. As the game progresses, players are expanding closer and closer to each other, which is obviously where that positional advantage once again becomes absolutely massive. Quite surprised, though, that souL is just sort of giving this location up. I guess he wants to go in for a better engagement right over here, and, well, how exactly are you going to defend this? HeroMarine probably also anticipated his opponent moving into that location. The siege tanks shelling away now at that planetary fortress. Marines split up, and that planetary is gone. One Liberator here on the high ground picking up kill after kill, although it eventually will get picked up as well. At the same time, small drop here in the top left-hand corner by HeroMarine, trying to see if he can go after this command center straight up. A couple of mules, though, should be quite helpful there. But apparently souL is not done yet on the other side. He does still have a relatively high-tech army. You can see how units are slowly being replaced, or the Marines, that is. They're slowly being replaced with higher-tech units, but you don't really want to replace all of them as the game progresses. If you have 0 Marines, the game also becomes a little bit of a meme, but souL right now rounding up his unit composition with only, quote-unquote, only 42 Marines. Well, here we go. HeroMarine apparently feeling brave to stim down this ramp. All of the siege tanks for souL are actually currently disabled, so that means that those Marines are going to be able to shut down a lot of this army. Tanks now also leapfrogging forward for HeroMarine, and HeroMarine actually breaks that position. Oh my god, I didn't actually see that happening. Awesome move right there by the German Terran player. Or the German Terran player, sorry. By Big Gabe, that is. He's got many names. I don't know if you want to move too far forward, though. Those siege tanks, oh my god, they're gonna once again grind up a couple of those Marines. Although some of them got evacuated inside of the Medivacs. Isn't this matchup cool, man? Like, isn't Terran versus Terran clearly the best matchup when it comes to, like, the mirror matchups in StarCraft? It's not even close, right? It's so sick. I love this matchup. And you gotta keep in mind, like, there's battlecruiser transitions rather, coming up as well if this game goes on for a lot longer. There's ghost potential too. Obviously, we might see even like a full-on mech transition if the game progresses even further. Because, I mean, at some point, those Marines, they do kind of fall out of favor. souL, though, he does have a lot of high-tech units. What's the siege tank count at right now for HeroMarine? He's only at 4 versus 10. Once again, top left-hand corner is constantly being denied here beautifully by HeroMarine, which is awesome. He does also still have a slightly higher economy here when it comes to the SCV count. I'm liking the siege tank count here for souL, though. Not to be underestimated whatsoever. The fact that he hasn't been able to secure the base in the top left-hand corner is quite painful. But once again, position is everything. HeroMarine caught with its pants down right now. Those siege tanks, they rolled forward, and they're now in range of the planetary fortress. Ravens, though, do have a ton of energy. So if HeroMarine can once again disable all of those tanks, that would still certainly make this a doable fight. Here we go. He's stimming forward. Oh my god, so many of the siege tanks are in the back. Woo! Okay. All right, good disengage right there. I thought for a second HeroMarine was going to continue stimming forward. He would have lost all of those Marines in a heartbeat. Yeah, I don't think he can really break this position anymore. That planetary fortress is certainly gone. That is so many tanks. Apparently, he decided now to go for the counterattack instead. Looks like he's going to be able to get himself potentially the kill of another orbital command. Marine count here heavily in favor of HeroMarine. Looks like the Marines actually for souL are now going to return in that direction as well. I was going to say hatchery. The command center there does fall. And souL, oh my god, he cleans up so much of this army. Looks like the Medivacs. Oh my god, HeroMarine. Yeah, no, he just got flanked by a whole lot of the Marines coming here from this location of the map up towards that high ground. He got all of the Medivac kills as well. And souL all of a sudden in a decisive advantage when it comes to that supply count. HeroMarine obviously did secure this base a while ago, but that's going to be like his only mineable location right now. souL decides to back up. He hasn't been able to secure this base over here. Obviously, he just lost the orbital command in this position too. I think he may have just replaced it right away though. You can see a lot of the mineral patches of the main, natural, and third. They are running very low. Most of them have already run out, and well, he's going to have to reposition here in just a little bit. souL, though, at this point, I mean, StarCraft 2, it's usually just a numbers game at this moment, right? You would say. Long distance mining this base on the low ground. HeroMarine, he needs more money. You can see right now, once again, souL, he's giving his opponent that position on the map. But he's actually going around right now. So I like this. He did that earlier as well when he made a beeline for that base over here. He now knows that this one is not taken. He's just letting his opponent get into a certain position and then moves his siege tanks over to another spot so he can hopefully get into a position that his opponent can't break. I like it a lot. HeroMarine, though, I mean, as this game progresses, he's still pumping out like 10 Marines at once. He's going to be able to max out pretty quickly. Okay. Where exactly are you going to take this, souL? He's just trying to see if he can get into a good spot. HeroMarine sleeping on the job. Loses a bunch of those Ravens and Vikings for free. Okay. So, he's given his opponent this spot, though. That seems so risky to me. But apparently he wants to go for the soft underbelly of HeroMarine. And that is apparently the main base and the natural expansion. Third base, I mean, he doesn't really need to hold on anymore. And HeroMarine, he looks at that army, he looks at that positioning, and he realizes there is absolutely no way that I'm going to be able to break that. And he taps out of this game. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, hit that like button down below. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. A special shout out to the Patreon supporters. Thank you very much for all your generosity. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Don't forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.